The former president blocked the strongest border security bill in decades.
Donald Trump got word of it and told them don't put the bill up for a vote because he didn't want a solution, because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
All right, how's it going, everybody? Carlton Flowers here with the new Go Political News Edition. I'm going to be reporting on things that we're seeing in the news every day from time to time and sharing my thoughts and just helping you people to make sense out of some of the stuff that we're hearing on the news. So we have heard Vice President Kamala Harris talk about this issue with the border bill for the last couple of months, where the statement is made that she and President Joe Biden were going to pass the strongest border bill in history that would have completely solved the problem. But Donald Trump, as she says, called up all of his colleagues and friends and killed the bill.
But there remains this perception among voters that the Biden administration dragged its feet and waited too long to act to address the border crisis. Can you speak to why voters may feel that way? Sure.
Well, first of all, to your point, when we first came in office, hours after we were inaugurated, the first bill we offered, before infrastructure, before bringing down the cost of prescription medications, it was to fix our broken immigration system. And it never got taken up, in large part for political reasons, because solutions are at hand, and we need to fix the problem. Then, to your point, a bipartisan group of members of the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members, worked together with our support to craft the most serious and strong border security bill we've seen in years. Yes. Donald Trump got word of it and told them don't put the bill up for a vote because he didn't want a solution, because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
So we're going to dig in and see if there's some truth to this or what is really hiding behind the story that she is giving us. It is kind of interesting, just a side note, that she's admitting that, say, Donald Trump, while not being the president, had the power to override legislation, which is kind of suspect because Kamala Harris has the most deciding votes in the history of the United States for a vice president who breaks the tiebreakers from the U.S. Senate. So she does have a lot of power. But in this regard, she claims that Donald Trump killed that bill. What people don't tend to do is to look behind the statements and see what really happened and why that bill failed. And something that we often don't think about are the other items that are included on these bills, which would cause someone to vote no. So when you have a bill that says, I want to plant apple trees in the backyard, and then it also says, I want to buy a truckload of manure to put on my neighbor's front porch. Well, those are both in the same bill. And so someone votes against it because they don't want to pay for a load of manure poured into the neighbor's front yard. But then later on, when this person who voted down that bill goes for election, the opponent says, can you believe that this individual voted no on planting of apple trees? And we need apples because it's health and nutrition, and who doesn't like apples? All right, so let's dig in and look and see what was actually included along with this bill that she so famously says that Donald Trump killed because he'd rather run on a problem instead of solving problems. So here we see this Mitch McConnell. You could never get used to that face. So digging back to the actual bill and what really happened. You can see right here, it says Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell encouraged GOP senators to pass an immigration and Ukraine aid deal. Just 4 of them supported it. In the end, even he vetoed the bill. So as we kind of scroll down, and you can read this story on NBCnews.com. I'll provide the link in the description. You can see it for yourself. And we're going to come on down to this key point that is made here. Here it is right here. The Senate is still trying to pass a supplemental bill, a supplemental aid bill by itself that would include aid to Ukraine and Israel, but it's far from clear that it can pass Congress despite McConnell's support. So after killing this one, because of the fact that here we see, he said, it looks to me and to most of our members as we have no real chance here to make law, the bill was going to be dead. So they started making plans on passing a separate bill for aid to the Ukraine and Israel. Why do I bring that up? Well, here it is right here. McConnell rejected claims by his GOP critics that he shouldn't have engaged in negotiations to pair Ukraine aid with a border and asylum bill, reminding them that it was their idea. All right, so there's the truth that we don't often hear the Democrats talking about. So when you hear Kamala Harris say that Trump wants to run on a problem instead of solving a problem, and that he killed the strongest border bill ever, now we know what's behind that, because it wasn't really a border bill in and of itself. Furthermore, when we go to this next article from Reuters, this is where we reveal the absolute truth of the situation, and this should set this all to rest. And then you can share this with your friends and say, hey, well, here's the evidence that the whole story that she is claiming is not really true. I'm going to read this out loud. In addition to $20.23 billion for border security, the bill included $60.06 billion in support for Ukraine in its war with Russia. Also, $14.1 billion in security assistance for Israel. And then it goes on with some chump change for Central Command in the conflict in the Red Sea, support to U.S. partners in the Indo-Pacific facing aggression from China. All right. So how was this the strongest border bill ever that was so serious? But $20 billion was going for the border. But, oh, by the way, we're just going to tack on 3 times that amount, $60 billion in support for Ukraine. And then we throw on another $14 billion, $2 billion, and $4 billion, which would bring that total, let's see, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So there's another $20 billion there. So let's think about this. $80 billion of the strongest border bill in the history of the country, $80 billion wasn't even for the border bill. 1/4 of the money allocated by this bill, 1/4, was for the border. So now this presents a real conundrum. So what are you supposed to do as Congress, as a senator? Are you supposed to say, okay, well, I'm going to pass this even though $80 billion, 4 times the amount, is not even for the intended purpose? When there are constituents saying that we are against funding the war in Ukraine, we are against the haul that we are sending to Israel, even though we support Israel. So for those people who are against that, do you think they would be happy with their senators if they passed this bill that only allocated 1/4 of the money to the border security situation? So the name of this bill was the Border Security Bill, and that's false, because the majority of the money is for something else. It should have been called the Ukraine and Israel War Support Bill. And side note, we're throwing in 1/4 of the total money to the border. So there you have the truth. And I don't know if it's going to play out well. I think Kamala Harris needs to change the story. Maybe she can fix the story and say, while I'll admit that there was 4 times more money for the war in Ukraine, the border bill would have solved our problem, but I can see where people were against that, but we tried. Because this does happen all the time, where you get bills that are proposed and they're not really for the intended purpose, or they tack on earmarks or extra stuff that would not normally pass on its own. So let me know what you think about this. Do you think that Kamala Harris is being truthful? Is she right in saying that Donald Trump had the power to kill her bill, that he had the power as a former president over the sitting president, over the sitting vice president, And we do know that Joe Biden said that Kamala Harris was involved in everything that he accomplished. We also know that she has the tie-breaking vote more times than any other vice president in history, so she had power. But do you agree that she has a point that Donald Trump killed this bill, and with reason? Or do you think that this is misleading to the American public? Let me know. And also, let me know if you want more news reports like this where I can explain to you what's really behind what you're seeing on the news so we can make sense of it. Let me know in the comments, and I would absolutely love it if you would like, comment, and subscribe to the Go Political channel. More stuff coming your way. That's all I've got for this one. And until next time, this is Carlton, and I am out.